Good morning and welcome to the Budget Committee's delegation process. We're looking forward to hearing from a number of delegations this morning. Before we continue, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? I can't imagine there would be this morning. Very good. We have full house. There are no members who are absent this morning. Further to today's meeting and Thursday's meeting, any member of the public wishing to speak further regarding an issue on the 2017 Budget Committee agenda for today may appear before Council at its meeting on December 12, 2016 at 7 p.m. when the recommendations from this meeting will go forward for final consideration. If you wish to speak as a delegation, please sign the sheet located at the back of the room or notify the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the Council meeting. Any PowerPoint presentations must also be forwarded to the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the meeting. This morning we have 3 delegations who are listed. I'll also poll the audience if there are any members here who hadn't signed up with the Clerk's Department ahead of time. Going through the list, we have members of Union Gas, followed by the Oakville Arts Council and the Oakville Master Swim Club listed as delegations this morning. So we're going to begin right away with Matt Jackson, Manager of Municipal Affairs, Mark Hewing, Utility Services Manager of Union Gas. Welcome. We look forward to your information.
All right, good morning, Your Worship, members of Council. I want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning to present our case to you in regards to permit fees and our request in front of the committee. So thank you for your time. I'll try and get through this in 10 minutes. It's a complicated issue. I'm going to do my best to get through it all in 10 minutes. So just quickly, why we're here today. So just to share with you some of Union Gas's involvement in the town of Oakville, to discuss the franchise agreement that we have in place with the town of Oakville between Union Gas and the city or the town, and discuss permit fees and why we feel they should only be applicable to new capital works related to our infrastructure. And then finally, take any questions that you may have. So just, and I guess I should just start off. My name is Matt Jackson. I'm the Manager of Municipal Affairs at Union Gas. And my role within the organization is really to work with our municipal partners and our district teams to make sure we're being consistent across the province. With my other hat on, I can completely appreciate the position you're all in going through budget time. I'm a councillor at home in my own community, so I sort of understand both sides of the table, and I'm going to try and do my best to sort of paint the picture for you. So just quickly, Union Gas's involvement within the town. So we service approximately 60,000 customers within the town of Oakville through 1,200 kilometers of pipeline, and we have 11 employees that work within the town to keep our system safe and operable. In 2015, we spent approximately $28.2 million with local businesses, and we paid $791,000 in property taxes. Of that, 97.3 are for our pipelines, which incur very few municipal services. So unlike a homeowner or a business, requires garbage collection, snow clearing, all those things. Typically our pipelines those taxes are paid on those pipelines which are just in the right of way. And it's important to note that no other utility in Ontario pays property taxes on each and every meter of their main services, pipes or wires. Then beyond operating our system within the town, we're a strong supporter of community initiatives such as the United Way, the Winter Warmth Program. We provide training to your local fire department, and we are a charitable supporter. And I think it's worth pointing out that in 2015 alone, Union Gas contributed $55,000 to local community charity initiatives. So a significant investment on our behalf to those community organizations. So just briefly, another uniqueness to Union Gas and the town of Oakville is that we have a standard franchise agreement that's granted by the Ontario Energy Board. And this franchise agreement, we've had one in place. They've evolved, obviously, but the first agreement was signed in 1929, and they're 20-year agreements, and the last one was signed November 30th, 2009. The current agreement is a standardized franchise agreement granted by the board that was negotiated by AMO, individual municipalities, gas utilities, and again is approved by the board. Currently, we have over 200 municipalities in our franchise area, all on the same agreement. And these agreements really hold us to account in terms of the expectations that the town has on us for the privilege of working in your right-of-way. So it covers things like the process we must follow to obtain permits. The second bullet is probably the most important one when it comes to permit fees. The agreement guarantees that restoration will be to the satisfaction of the town. And if Union Gas was to walk away from a situation, let's say, and refuse to fix something, which would never be the case, but let's say that happened, the town's completely within its right to conduct those repairs and invoice Union Gas for the entire cost. So unlike other excavators that are working in the right-of-way where there's a concern of them coming in, digging, taking off, and leaving a mess, you have a guarantee within that agreement that holds us to account to make sure that we repair that. And obviously we take pride as a 100-year-old company within your community. We take pride in our restoration work, and it's something we like to hold ourselves to a high account. So it covers relocation and cost sharing provisions, abandonments, and many other terms. And if you take a look at this agreement, in many ways it protects the town. There's a number of protections in there that really set us apart from other utilities working in the right-of-way, that you have assurances in that agreement. So a little bit about why we're here today, and I just want to say we've been very engaged with town staff. We've had a lengthy discussion with town staff about this issue. We've spent a number of meetings together, and we've made some progress, but we really wanted to get our position on the public record to have council consider that come budget time. So in November 2015, Union Gas was notified of a change in the bylaw at the town. And I think it's fair to say that we maybe misunderstood the scope of that change when we received the letter of notification. So we were notified that changes were going to require a permit fee for each activity of $390. So at the time, Union Gas assumed that these fees would only be required for our new capital installations. So when we install a new main or a service, leave new infrastructure in the ground, and would not be required for maintenance-related activities, which is the agreement we have. We're negotiating with other municipalities across Ontario. So. Subsequently, Union Gas entered into negotiations with your public works staff, and we are not requesting a full-out exemption by any stretch. We're simply requesting the consideration of a reasonable outcome that recognizes our partnership, our property tax contributions, and our long-standing history of being a responsible operator within your right-of-way. So our request, basically, what are we looking for today? Union Gas agrees across the province to paying permit fees related to the installation of new infrastructure. So we understand and we appreciate that it takes time from your staff to review those permit applications, to approve running lines, to potentially come out and inspect those jobs when we're installing new infrastructure. And we've sort of changed our approach in the last year, and I've pushed very hard making the case. Originally our approach was, let's ask for a full exemption because we pay property tax. Personally, with my councillor hat on, I recommended that was probably getting a little bit old and that we needed to sort of modernize our position. And we've sort of changed our position, and now that we willingly pay reasonable permit fees on new capital installs. But across Ontario, Union Gas does not pay maintenance-related fees for the ongoing maintenance of our system. So this is work that's required on an ongoing basis to ensure the safety and reliability of our system. So that's important work that we have to do, and it normally has very minimal impact on the right-of-way. And then just a final point, as a regulated utility, we're regulated by the Ontario Energy Board, and we're very proud of the fact that we've worked hard to remain the lowest cost provider of natural gas in Ontario. This is something that benefits the residents of Oakville. It offers a competitive advantages for businesses in Oakville who are competing with other communities that have different operators. So adding an unnecessary expense of $390 each time we go out to maintain our system represents a significant cost pressure and is not reasonable for an established utility like Union Gas working within the right-of-way. So why the request? So Union Gas is the only utility paying property tax on every meter of pipe in the municipality. So every time we actually come in and install a new main or a service, there's a net benefit to the municipality of increased property tax ongoing for every year looking forward. So $791,000 annually is a reliable source of revenue for the municipality. And if you look back to the history of why natural gas utilities pay property taxes, it was to provide a reliable and ongoing source of revenue to the municipality to help offset the cost of us working within the right-of-way. So charging a permit fee for new capital, the ongoing maintenance, and annual property taxes equates to 3 layers of costs or taxes for an important community service that we provide. So Union Gas, we take pride in our restoration work, and we take pride in the fact that we try to minimize the impact on the right-of-way. whenever we're working out there. So we would argue that there's no need for a fee when we're conducting the ongoing maintenance, because often our ongoing maintenance activities only require small excavations within the boulevard. And to date, we are not aware and have not had any issues brought to our attention that have had a requirement for ongoing inspection by the municipality on our maintenance work. And we stand behind our reputation as a reasonable partner within your right-of-way, and our reputation is doing proper restoration and making sure that we have a good partnership with the town, I apologize. So just in summary, Union Gas has a 85-year-old relationship with the town of Oakville. We value the relationship with the town. And we believe that the availability of natural gas has helped Oakville grow and prosper with its surrounding municipalities. And our goal is to have a strong and positive relationship with the government and administration of the town. And we are committed to finding a reasonable solution today to trying to work through this situation. So certainly we're open to negotiations. We wanted to get our arguments on the public record so that we could have our voice heard in this process, and look to the committee for a recommendation to consider an exemption on the permits related to our maintenance activities. Just quickly, because we've got a bit of time. I just threw this picture in at the very end because I wanted to sort of show, this is one picture, you know, obviously the maintenance activities can be different. This is an example of what we're talking about when we're maintaining a system. So this was us repairing a blowing gas situation within a municipality, and we went out, basically dug a 2x2 hole, fixed the situation, and then repaired the issue. So as you can see, a very small impact, and it's something that we do on an ongoing basis really to maintain our system safely. So I just wanted to put that in there because I thought it sort of helped with the scope and scale of what we're doing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the information. Councillor Elgar, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much for coming and presenting today. My question is, how many permits do you have for new capital work, and how many permits do you have annually for maintenance work?
So that's a good question. The majority of the work would be for new sort of installs. That said, I'm not sure exactly the split, but I think it was about a 30-70 split, roughly. That would be fairly average across the municipalities that we deal with.
So what numbers are we talking, though? Percentages don't do much if I don't have a base number.
Yep. So I don't recall I can get the specific number for last year. The process has changed, so we're sort of trying to get our head around the numbers that would be required because of the change that came in this year. But we're talking a fairly significant impact if it was required for maintenance-related activities. We are out maintaining our system on a regular basis, much like any other utility. So the reality is, a lot of the time, when we're going out to maintain our system, it's as a result of other excavators working within the municipality that may be impacted our infrastructure. Maybe the municipality has expanded sidewalks or expanded roads and covered up our infrastructure, so we're actually going out to relocate those assets to make sure that they're still accessible and they're not interfering with municipal work. So it sort of fluctuates on a given year depending on the activities that are going on with the municipality, as well as the maintenance related activities that we have. So they can change, but we can certainly get you the total number.
It would certainly be helpful to know what the numbers are that we're,
Sure.
What are we talking about, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 20,000?
It certainly wouldn't be that many, but we're probably talking a few hundred a year at least, if not more. It all depends too on our capital program and sort of the maintenance that we've been sort of scheduled to do in that given year. It can fluctuate, but.
So it might not be many dollars at all is what you would save then?
It's significant dollars.
But you have no idea how you could base that on anything.
So we've looked at the numbers. I just don't have the exact number in front of me today.
I don't need exact, I'm just trying to get a range.
On average, we're looking probably at several $100,000 impact if we were required to pay on our maintenance related activities.
So there's quite a few hundreds and hundreds of maintenance orders then you're talking?
Depending on the year, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I thank you.
Thanks.
Our report on the matter estimated the fees for Union Gas for 2016 was $70,000.
That would be a very light estimate, I would think, if it took into consideration all the new capital works we do plus any maintenance related activities.
Okay. Mayor Burton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wondered if staff wanted to give us any information on the points raised by the delegation.
Before we go to our staff, I just want to check, are there any other questions for the delegate? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your information.
Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, Councillor Listerna, do you have a question for the delegation?
Yes, I do. Last week, on November 17th, I asked regarding every time we dig, we have an inspector come out and have a look. For example, given that 70,000, it looks like there have been 180 permits in 2016. So did you have 180 times an inspector come out to have a look at the work that was done, considering we're looking at cost recovery as part of the reason we have the permit fees? So you don't know if we come out to inspect, so I'm assuming staff will comment on that.
So, and I would just say that in our discussions with staff, we actually asked that question, has there been examples of where Union Gas has left a unsatisfactory job? When you think about that picture we showed, Union Gas goes out and digs a small hole within the boulevard to fix a leak, to repair an issue, move a valve box potentially that's in conflict with new municipal infrastructure. I would argue that there's probably not a need for a municipal inspector to be out and check every one of those jobs. I guess within the hard portion of the road, I can appreciate that. You've got to maintain those assets. They are costly. They do, over time with more excavations deteriorate. So certainly I can appreciate that. But in terms of the need to inspect Union Gas every time we're digging a small hole within the boulevard or those sort of small maintenance related activities, we have not been made aware in discussions with staff of any case where they've had to come back to us to sort of hold us to account or have had an issue. So that was a question we asked, has there been an ongoing concern that has led to this new need for you to oversee our work? And the answer was no. So we're trying to just find a balanced, reasonable solution here that recognizes sort of our reputation and our hard work. We take it very seriously. We're not like a renegade utility that hires contractors that we let run rogue. We hold our contractors to a very high count. We expect that our contractors are going to do work that lives up to our reputation, and I would argue that through our partnership with the city, there should be an ongoing level of trust that we're going to be a responsible operator in that sense. Thanks.
Councillor Mira.
Thank you, and yes, right over here, no problem. So on that, I heard you mention the master franchise agreement, and am I correct in assuming then that you believe any deficiencies from the work you would do in the maintenance thing would be covered off in the master franchise agreement?
Absolutely. So obviously that would be the worst situation for us to get to. We would never let a situation get to that. So for example, the municipality has an issue with an excavation we've done. One phone call to us, we've got an example of where there was a concern with some restoration work we did on a new service. We were out the very next day and fixed that. So obviously we take our reputation seriously, and if there are any concerns, we're there the next day or as soon as we can to fix them. That said, let's say Union Gas took a change in direction and decided we're not going to worry as much about restoration and we're just going to sort of do a half-hearted job. Absolutely, the municipality is fully within their right to go out and conduct that restoration and charge the utility whatever the costs are associated with that, plus the administration-related fees. So unlike some smaller utilities or some excavators, let's say, I understand the premise of the permit fees and the fact you need to inspect fly-by-the-pants sort of excavator and those that maybe don't have a 90-year established relationship with the municipality. But we take that responsibility very seriously and would never let it get to that point. But certainly within that franchise agreement, there are a number of protections that you wouldn't have with other utilities because there's not standardized agreements with the municipalities.
So prior to the changes that we've made here, did Union Gas notify the town whenever they were out doing maintenance prior to 2015?
I believe that, yes. So I believe in Oakville we have been notifying. It depends. So we serve about 233 municipalities across Ontario. Some require us to notify, some don't, and that's sort of changing. But what I will say is that in no other municipality in Ontario are we paying permit fees related to the ongoing maintenance of our our system.
So then, just to get back to that though, how is it that the town is to guarantee the sod gets replaced properly? A bunch of things going on without sending one of our staff members to each and every location that you've notified us to go to. How are we ensuring that, as a councillor, you can understand you've got Mr. Jones on the street opening up his window wondering what's going on and notifies his councillor, and then we notify our staff and we'd say we don't know. So how is it that Union Gas would notify the town then that this job is now complete, it's done to this satisfaction and standards that Oakville has? How would that play out, I guess, if we weren't sending someone to inspect?
So a couple of things on that question. So good question, and absolutely I understand the pressures from councillors for utilities working within the right-of-way, because you're often the first line of defense. I think a couple of the unique things about Union Gas, so we're out there with typically a Union Gas branded truck, so they know it's us. They can run out and actually have a conversation with our local staff. And I guess I would argue, you know, in discussions with staff, we sort of ask that same question. Has there been issues with Union Gas's restoration work that has led to the need to send an inspector every time we're working within the right-of-way? And the answer was no, that there had not been issues, that we were doing a fairly decent job. And certainly we're open to ideas on how we can improve. We're open to ideas on notification changes, but it just seems a bit redundant to charge a fee when we install the infrastructure. We are the only utility that's paying ongoing property tax on that infrastructure, so $791,000 a year to the town, and I understand not all of that stays with the town, but it's still a significant contribution that you don't get from any other utility. Plus, you've got that guarantee that we're going to sort of come good on the work. So I would just argue that we've been operating within the town for a number of years and there hasn't been an issue. So I guess we're trying to understand where the need's coming from to inspect every job we do, and there doesn't seem to be a correlation with an issue related to our work specifically.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Our staff had some comments. Thank you very much. We
you for your
appreciate
time.
your delegation this morning. Ms. Closey?
Actually, I'd ask Darnell Lambert, our Director of Development Engineering, who's most familiar with this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Is my mic on? Hopefully, all right. I think the item that's before you is certainly whether the municipality has the right to impose a fee for the permit onto Union Gas and in fact any other utility provider. And this debate actually has been going on for quite some time. I could hand out to you kind of the reply submission that was put out by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario during the development of the franchise agreement with Union Gas, because this very issue of paying property taxes and the right to impose permit fees was certainly a poignant discussion at the time of the creation of that document. And I think the municipalities took a very hardened position that the agreement would not include words that would preclude that should the Municipal Act, in fact, change. And the Municipal Act actually gives us the ability to impose fees upon Union Gas, any gas provider within the municipality, telecommunication providers, for the purposes of issuing permits and doing the follow-up work that goes along with that. Certainly inspection is one aspect that we do, but certainly taking in the permit, knowing where they're doing the work, advising our Service Oakville counter so that when inquiries come in, because you know full well inquiries do come in, who's working on my street, what are they doing, and having those responses is something that all takes place during our permit process and in the administration of it. On the question of inspection, we are certainly aware of where any utility is doing work within our road corridor, and we do follow up with an inspection after. We do know the time that they are doing the dig, and as was pointed out, if there's a dig that's taking place within the pavement or within a municipal sidewalk, we do our best to have an inspector there on site to make sure that remediation work is done and done to our standards. A dig within the boulevard area, a little bit less of a concern, but we do follow up after. It may be a few days or even a few months later to make sure that the work was done according to our standards. And we certainly do respond to any inquiries from the public that you know full well does come forward quite often on issues of there's been a settlement there, the sod has died, somebody needs to come back out and replace that work. So there certainly is inspection that does take place. It is one component of the overall fee that establishes our now $345 fee, which I think is before you as far as the fee goes for the utility providers. It was mentioned about the franchise agreement and certainly their obligation to restore the works to our standards. I'll give you kind of the comparison of a private utility or perhaps a private works within the municipal right-of-way. We take a security deposit to make sure that the work was done according to our requirements. The franchise agreement allows us to kind of not have that security deposit there because the agreement is very clear. If the works aren't done according to our requirements, we can certainly go back and undertake the works and invoice back to Union Gas. Just to put kind of the gas distribution companies collectively in comparison, because I did take the time to kind of poll around municipalities as far as whom is being charged what. Enbridge is another gas provider that operates within municipalities. And within the City of Ottawa, Town of Whitby, City of Oshawa, Region of Durham, they in fact pay permit fees for new installation works as well as maintenance works. And subject to yet a phone call verification, I did receive an email from the City of London where in fact Union Gas does work, and based on that email I received, in the City of London they pay for new installation works as well as maintenance works permits. So if you have any questions for me on this matter, I'd be
Lambert?
more than happy to answer.
Thank you. I only have a couple more. I guess first, I think this question is really for Ms. Sully, but don't go away, there might be more for you. With regard to the property tax paid by the gas provider, I'd like to know how much of that stays with the town, how much goes to the region, how much goes to the province. And I ask that because in an earlier session of this year's budget, you, I believe you showed us a pie graph that depicted what happens to the residential property tax, where I recall 22% or so goes to the province, and the other portion is split roughly equally between the regional municipality and the local municipality. Could you tell me if the pipeline tax is split that way or on some other basis?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a little bit different because it's a commercial. The tax rate for pipelines, I just happen to know because I was talking to Darnell yesterday, it's 1.837%. So that's the overall, including region. The town share of that is 0.35%. So it's less than, residential, it's about 40% of the tax bill. On commercial, it's less for the town.
And where does the rest of it go?
It's going to the region, it's going to education purposes.
So are they in equal shares?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have the actual breakdown here. We could get it for you, though, and come back with it. It would only take a minute to get the rates.
All right, thank you. That would be interesting to me. Because I understand each class apparently splits differently.
They do, so I need to go and get the rates for you.
Thank you. Mr. Lambert, I'm having trouble recalling the year and the provider who was involved, but I recollect that in the last few years, we had an incident where a major gas transport line had a major leak at, I think, a pumping station, at any rate, somewhere in the vicinity of Third Line. And we were, as a result, we had a large evacuation. And I believe, if I remember the story correctly, that there was a knock-on leak on the other side of town on the same transport line as a result of the first leak because of pressure imbalances or something like that. And so I'm interested to know if our costs in those kinds of situations are recoverable to the town by any means. And by town, well, let's start with the town.
So this would be a case where a permit wasn't issued, and if I recall the issue on, it was at Third Line around Sandpiper area, I think there was a valve that released at that point, and there was a strong whistling sound, I think, that took place, and I think the area got quite concerned, and I think there was an evacuation. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think there is a recovery that comes into place under those instances, and I'm not quite familiar with the other one at the other end of town.
Yeah, I didn't witness the other one. I read in the paper that something to do with the pressure change from the first one caused another valve to go. This reminded me of the fuel oil or fuel gas leak that we suffered in Bronte Creek, where we discovered that for that provider, the pipeline maintenance method was to wait for it to leak and fix the leak. And this alarmed me because, to the best of my knowledge and belief, although that was many years ago, like 7, 8 years ago, that still isn't cleaned up. All right, well, thank you. Obviously, it's a very complicated situation with pipelines, and if Union Gas has 1,200 kilometers of them in Oakville, I dare say there must be a few kilometers more of others as well. So thanks for the information.
Any further questions of our staff? Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information. Looks like there might be one final piece of information about the breakdown of the funding. I'll go to you.
Through Mr. Chair. So the breakdown, it's about 19% that goes to the town, just under 18% to the region, and 63% to education purposes.
Thank you for correcting that. That is far more in line with what I was expecting to hear. Thank you.
Very good. Any further? Thank you very much. Then we're going to go to the next delegation. Bernadette Ward, Executive Director, and Suzy Godefroy, Chair of the Cultural Grants Review Committee, Oakville Arts Council. Welcome. We look forward to your information.
That's not ours. We just want to close it. Yeah. And then we want our own. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to do full screen? I am. Yep. There you go. Okay. Good morning, Mayor Burton and members of council. I just wanted to say my name is Suzy Godefroy. I'm a local resident and board member of the Oakville Arts Council. And Bernadette Ward and myself, who is the executive director, are here to talk about the Oakville Arts Council's Cultural Grant Program. So we're just going to take you through a very quick and brief presentation. So first and foremost, how does this go down? Okay, thanks. Okay, so we're going to just take you through some background history of the Oakville Arts Council. Is this loading? Go ahead. Okay. Okay, so just to take you back a few years, the Oakville Arts Council has been operating a cultural grants program since 1989, and basically we're granting various arts funds to the local community to foster the arts community and to champion artistic development in Oakville. And on behalf of the town of Oakville, the Oakville Arts Cultural Grant Committee administers these funds, and we report back to a board of directors at the Oakville Arts Council, of which I sit on. Okay. And just to take you back, for the past 27 years, there have been approximately 64 different cultural organizations in Oakville who have benefited from the support of approximately $2.3 million. This has helped to nurture Oakville's creative sector by providing a foundation for groups to grow programming and services. In some cases, this funding has formed a substantial part of the revenue available to recipients. Now we're just going to take you through the funding share for 2016, and you'll see the breakdown is digital arts, performing arts, visual arts, and the heritage and cultural sector. And for 2016, the total funding for Oakville was $110,000. 8,500 represents digital arts, 65,000 and change for performing arts, 17.5 for visual, and just under 19,000 for heritage and culture. So some of the outcomes with regards to the cultural grants program is we have approximately 1,600 members, just under 2,000 volunteers, and that represents approximately 97,000 volunteer hours, 400 festivals, performances, and exhibitions, and the audience reach is approximately 79.8. And we're also helping administer over 1,200 workshops and classes. So the next slide kind of gives you a breakdown of the whole granting program from 2008 to 2016, and you'll see funding back in 2008 was at 98,000 with 14 applications, and for this past year we were representing 28 applications with a total funding amount of 110,000. So you'll see on this overview that the average grant has decreased as the number of applications has increased, and the community the population has obviously increased. So today our ask to you, as there has been a staff report for 2017 with regards to the Oakville Arts Council seeking an additional $25,000 to the community grant program. And so we're here today to request this to council for budget consideration. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much. Other questions? I think you've been thorough. Thank you very much. We appreciate you providing the information, and we'll make sure that your presentation is forwarded to the members of council as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your time today.
Great.
Arnold, Bernie, and Valerie Scott, Oakville Masters Swim Club. Welcome.
Apparently, there's been a change.
Oh, there's been a change. Okay.
So it's just Valerie Scott, and I live in Ward 3. Might want to keep that in mind, Councillor. And I'm an avid swimmer. I swim at Oakville Public Swims. I swim with the Oakville Masters.
Sorry, Valerie, could we get you to just move the mic over so we can all hear you better? Thank you very much.
So I'm an avid swimmer. I swim at the Oakville Public Swims, town-operated ones. I swim with the Oakville Masters, and I do drop-in swims at the Y. And the mayor's made it pretty clear over the years that the council and the town isn't in the position to subsidize nonprofit adult programs and adult swim programs, even though the youth programs are subsidized. So I, along with every one of the other 150 plus members of the Oakville Masters Swim Club, we subsidize all of the adult parks and recreation, adult swim programs and lanes. And that's just not right. And I really think it's time that the town step up and you do some of the heavy lifting rather than leave all the lifting to the backs of taxpayers who happen to be members of the Oakville Masters. You know, the town programs combined on a weekly basis don't attract as many members or many participants as the membership at the Oakville Masters. And my Masters membership, just for pool rental, that would let me buy 3 adult annual swim passes, 3. Weekly, the town provides over 60 hours of adult swim programs, and my pool rental fee gives me 3 programs of set times to swim, and I personally pay $25 a week just for pool rental, or about 70% of a 10-visit pass. You know, you as councillors and staff of Oakville, you have to look at your programs, maybe shorten the duration of some programs, combine programs, and raise your rates. Like in the summer, you know, maybe put the length swims at times when most people can come, rather than at noon and 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. And, you know, from firsthand experience, I can tell you that many instances, the town doesn't even cover its variable costs for swim programs. On a good, regular Sunday morning swim, 30 to 40 people attend a 2-hour swim. So at the most you're making is $80 revenue. So that's 130, the masters for the very same time, we pay 130% premium on renting the pool. And we know that your variable costs aren't met. For instance, I went swimming last night at Centennial. There were 6 people in an hour and a half and 4 staff. So you really have to look at your programs to see where you can save money so that we can have a fair rate to pay for our swims. And you've made it clear, Mayor Burton, time and time again, that cost recovery is paramount. So step up, do your share. You know, you can't put the load only on the masters group. And, you know, you have to look at what makes Oakville livable. And programs like the masters that aren't duplicated within the town programs are one of these programs. And since I got 5 minutes left, I'm just going to put on another hat as a plain taxpayer. And how the town treats Oakville Masters and the rates that we charge, about $185 an hour to rent a pool. It doesn't even come close to how I feel on how you treat the Special Olympians at the Oakville Marlin Swim Club and the Oakville Strokers. And you make a big deal about being the most livable town and city in Canada. But, you know, I just think it's lip service. Because if we can't, as taxpayers and members and citizens of Oakville, if we can't lend a helping hand to people that are in need, like, how can we ever claim that we could be a livable city? You know, just by throwing a little bit of consideration to make people's lives better, we'll do a whole lot more to make Oakville a better place to live. So, under 5 minutes, if you have any questions. I'm here, Arnold Burney's here, and Andy, who I always forget his last name. And we can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Other questions? Councillor Robinson, I had you, and then Councillor Elgar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks very much for coming this morning and telling us how you feel about your wonderful projects. At the beginning of your speech, you mentioned that really struck with me the fact that the adults don't receive the same treatment or the same grant benefit, whatever you want to call it, that the children do or the youth. Did you not?
I did.
Yeah.
That would reflect Oakville Aquatic Club.
Okay. Have you done any research, and can you tell me from the research I presume you have done about other sporting events, sporting organizations, whatever you want to call them, that are in the same position as you, or are you the only one that's not getting treated, in your words, fairly?
I don't know. However, I can tell you, compared to the membership rates that we pay at Oakville for Masters membership, are significantly higher than towns around us. And in many instances, there are special programs for seniors, and with more than half of our membership over 50 and about 25% over 60, we don't receive any benefit based on age.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. At the appropriate time, I'm going to ask our staff to comment on that question. Thank you.
Councillor Elgar.
Appreciate where you're coming from, but I'm not sure I fully understand what's the difference between the masters and the strokers, and then using Oakville's regular program where you can get a membership for swimming.
The Masters Swimming, I'll call it, is a training program. And we have a number of different programs that range that you can come once a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week, usually for an hour and a half practice under the direction of a coach. Some of our members do participate in provincial, national, and international competitions, but the majority don't. It's really a fitness program. Comparable town programs, somewhat, are length swimming, $4 for whatever the period is. Oakville has an endurance swim for lessons. And the endurance swims that I've seen firsthand have about 4 people in them. You know, that would just be based on recent knowledge. And the town has Aquafit, and that wasn't included in the 60 hours that I showed because that's charged at a different rate. And so really, we just swim lengths. Last night I swam about 3 kilometers in my hour and a half of it I went to public swim, and this last hour I went to master swim because we still have ongoing delays about completing the White Oaks pool.
So I'm trying to understand though, like, so you can go and you can get the Aquafit, the endurance for
They're town programs.
a town program, which costs how much?
What do I have, if you pass my book, a length swim's $4, and if you have your pass, I think it goes down to $3.26 a time. And
I think they hire trainers. They've got their own trainers. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the costs that you're concerned about and how the system works.
in the simplistic terms, we pay $185 an hour.
Okay, so you rent it $185 an hour.
If we have one person, or we have our regular 30 to 40 people who come to the swim.
Got it.
We use the exact same services. There's, you know, 1 lifeguard required by law up to about 30 people. We pay an extra fee if a second lifeguard's required.
Okay, no, so $185 an hour.
$185 an
Okay,
hour.
Now, is there any program similar, like in Burlington, Mississauga,
Yeah,
and? What's
They're
the
less.
difference? How much are they?
well, Arn, you got all those sides?
For example, the town of Burlington would pay $150.
160? 150. So you got a $35 spread. That's what you're, that's basically?
Well, no, my bigger concern is, you know, I don't like paying $185. Don't get me wrong. The mayor's made it clear, that's not changing. What has to change is your rate. If we're paying $185, $150, whatever the number is, and you're paying, your programs are contributing $80 revenue, that's the problem. Because we're doing all the heavy lifting, and when you need to look at your revenue from pools, it's not coming from your programs. Your rates haven't changed for many years. Our rates have, you know, increased significantly every year.
It's interesting. So, okay, so, but you're saying Burlington's similar is 150,
Yeah.
and at the town, we are 185. Whatever other money you're paying for the masters, that's what you have to, that's because you have trainers, your own trainers.
Yeah, I'm paying more than what, my $25 a week. But, you know, if you do a general, the 2017 fee for aquatic general admission is $4. If you have a pass, you know, it goes down to about $3.20. You know, the 10 visits, like $3.63. So, you know, you're making accommodations. If you don't want to, you know, increase your rates, that's fine. Why don't you say that, you know, we rent so many hours. Maybe the first block of 100 hours is this, and maybe the second block it goes down. But, you know.
So how many hours do you rent a week? 16 hours a week.
Yeah, and because of the rate increase, we've cut out one program, right out, and we have reduced our swims on, we'll call it long weekends, and we've shortened the duration. But last year, I think the town received about $85,000.
Okay. Okay, I got some questions for staff later, but thank you.
Okay, good work.
Other questions, committee? Very good, thank you very
Yep.
much. Oh, Councillor Listrina?
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Could you just comment on what time of day is it usually the
Well-
swims are when the pool's not as busy through, you know, time of day obviously
Okay,
being after
we have
school?
a couple of programs. We have one early morning program on Wednesday morning, 6:30 to 7:30. We have, we'll call it morning swims, and I think when we're back on schedule at White Oaks Pool, it's 8:45 to 10? Quarter to 9 to 10:30, and then the next one is 11 to 12 at White Oaks Pool.
So basically off-peak hours?
Well, 1 minute, that's the good times. The regular times are for where many people attend. We have a Sunday morning swim from 8 to 9:30. Monday evening, Tuesday evening are 9 to 10:30 p.m. Wednesday is 8:30 to 10 p.m. And Thursday is, 8 to 9:30. So we aren't infringing on most of the, we'll call it, the town lessons or the town programs.
Thank you very much.
Nothing, Mayor Burton? You're just in awe I didn't wear my bathing suit, right?
Mr. Chair? So, I don't know if you're aware, but are you aware that I only have one vote on council?
Oh, yeah, we know that.
Are you aware that the municipal act says that my job is to uphold the decisions of council?
Yep.
So when I'm explaining what the situation is, it's not that I personally am trying to make it that way. It's that I'm telling you what council has decided. I couldn't tell if you understood that from the way you were, it seemed like kind of singling me out as if you believed that this was my will being imposed on everybody.
No, but I think you have responded to me in letters saying, and maybe, you know, I took a letter from the mayor as saying it was you. I recognized it was the council, that the town, you know, doesn't want to subsidize adult programs.
I mean,
So if they offended you, you know, that wasn't my intent, but my views really haven't changed. It's collective. I think we're all in this boat together, and we all have to do our share.
well, I will tell you that, I guess I'll ask you, would you be glad if I still felt that we should have our fees as fair as possible for everyone concerned, and that your information about contradictions between programs has made me want to check with staff to see if we can't resolve any contradictions that may be there?
No, in fact, you know, I do really think that, we'll call it, non-town programs should pay a premium. It's just the amount of premium, and maybe if you looked at your own programs, maybe there's some more cost savings that you could do within the town programs to make the operations of the pools, which are very expensive, a little bit more affordable. That's all. I don't, you know, expect that you'll come and say, you know, $185 is too much. But I do think you have to look at your programs.
Let me try my question over again.
Okay.
Would you be happy to hear that I agree with what you just said in your submission, that we need to look after what kind of a burden we're placing on the total cost structure in order to be able to have a fair and equitable system for everybody?
I would think that's true, but I'd hope you look at the Special Olympics and strokers first. If you can't do anything, do it for them first, and then, you know, I think you've tried.
So you're happy with the first part?
Yeah.
And if I agreed with the second part, you'd be happy with that as well?
Sure.
We're going to do what we can. I think I understand, thanks to the questions of my colleagues, I think we understand your situation better, and I appreciate you bringing us the information.
Well, thank you for giving us the time, and you, as you said, you thought I was singling you out. Maybe, you know, this year we understood the process. We did a submission to Parks and Recreation earlier this year. I understand Parks and Recreation brought a report to council, well, requested to prepare a report from council, and that wasn't granted. So this is our, you know, our next step to make sure that Budget Committee can relay our concerns to council. Thank you.
Okay, and before you leave, I just had two quick things. So I did have a discussion with Arnie the other day, and I understand that you're pleased with the freezing or slight reduction in the fees for the upcoming year, and it's matching up with the adults number, which is coming down. The other discussion I had with him was with respect to the type of facilities that are available and an interest in having a 50-meter pool by the Oak Swim Club. Have you engaged in discussions with them about a desire for other kinds of facilities?
No, however, a number of years back, the same question came up, and the town was considering building a 50-meter pool at the 16 Mile Creek complex. And the analysis that had been done at that time reflected that the cost of operation was over $600 an hour on a 50-meter pool.
And so it's your opinion that it's not financially viable to?
Oh, I think it is viable. I think there's all kinds of different ways that you could fill the pool. I just also think that, you know, at that cost that everybody has to proceed slowly. You know, it's really a disgrace within Ontario on how few 50-meter pools there are compared to, say, Quebec. And not just adult swimmers who compete, but the youth, they're at a real disadvantage. You know, the Pan American Games provided an opportunity to have a 50-meter pool that went to Markham. And Etobicoke was, you know, refurbished as part of it. You know, if you look at maybe spin-off benefits of a 50-meter pool, more people can come to meets, there'll be more, we'll call it international in stature rather than local or regional. So there's a lot of spin-off benefits that have to be considered. But, you know, if cost recovery remains paramount to you, the cost of operating a 50-meter pool is fairly significant. And the cost for any group, including the Masters, of renting Iroquois Ridge is more than for renting White Oaks or Centennial. So there's a premium on that reflects the additional costs.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
thoughts on the matter. I believe that covers all of our, oh, you've got questions of staff. I'm sorry. Councillor Robinson and then Councillor Elgar.
Are you telling me to go ahead? The staff actually heard my question. Do you want me to repeat it, or you? Thanks.
To the extent that staff need it repeated, then perhaps, but it looks like they're ready.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll just clarify, Councillor Robinson, that your question was whether this club was experiencing the same kind of, or whether there were other clubs that had the same kind of arrangement that they have, a difference in price.
Well, I'm not sure if that was my question. Now, what I'm interested in knowing is, are all seniors groups being treated equally then, regardless of whether they're swimmers or playing hockey or badminton or whatever?
Okay. The Masters Club is, to my knowledge, is not an official seniors club. It is a swimming club. They have members that are all ages. How our fees are based on essentially whether a club is on the age of the members of the club, or if it's a not-for-profit or a commercial club. So we have a youth rate and we have an adult rate, and for all of our rentals for all of our clubs. And so the Masters Club does have pays the adult rate because they are an adult club. There is no seniors rate for
Okay,
rental.
thank you. you've explained it well, and I like Mayor Burton's talk about making sure that everybody is treated the same. And that came along after I had asked her the question, and I look forward to that analysis.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Elder.
Nina, thanks very much. Just trying to go through it, because there's no question that the seniors that are swimming, they probably are healthier, will have less to do with healthcare costs going forward also, which is not in our bailiwick of control. But I'm just thinking that if Burlington is 150, and we are 185, and that's an adult rate, I guess, is it?
That's correct.
There is no such thing as a seniors rate.
No, we don't have, for rentals, we don't have seniors rates.
And excuse me, if I could interject, Milton's 135.
Well, we're not going to go to Milton then.
If-
Okay. Anyway, I was looking at it. So if they have 16 hours, 52 weeks a year at the 185, we're talking $153,920, and at the 150 rate, it'd be $124,800. So the spread is like we're talking $29,000 annually. Could we do a seniors rate? Like how many groups would be I'm just trying to think. Seniors rate, how many different people would we have other than this group here, where it would be for seniors?
That's a very good question. I don't know that there would be any seniors clubs. We'd have to check to see what that is, and we could certainly look.
And what about the drop-in River Oaks adult program for a couple of afternoons and they look at that? That would be one program I would.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just a couple of, if I may, the club did come to us in the summer, and we spent a lot of time together. They presented a lot of information, and we did a lot of research and trying to address their concerns. We did look at surrounding municipalities, so I do have a report on that information. If Budget Committee would like to see it, we might need to update it. The challenge we have with other municipalities' rates is that you're often not comparing apples to apples. They have different services that they provide with those rates. Yes, our rate, as I recall, was probably among the highest, but in my recollection, Milton was actually pretty close. It wasn't less. But there is a variety of rates, and our rate is based on our strategy or our pricing policy of trying to achieve a certain cost recovery ratio. But I'm happy to provide that information to Budget Committee if you would like to see it.
I would
Sure.
appreciate that, because the more I sit here, I think we do subsidize the youth, and if we have the seniors that are staying active, like we're lucky to have that program in the town, but I'm wondering, you want to make it as affordable as you can for the seniors also. And I'm thinking the spread is under 30,000 based on the 16 hours a week. If we could show us how that would impact your budget overall.
We could look at that. We could certainly take a look at that and provide you with that information.
I appreciate that. I thank you. Thanks very much.
Before I go to Councillor O'Meara, I understand from some of the discussions we've had on this very particular matter that some of the other municipalities are looking to, if not match Oakville's pricing, come closer to Oakville's pricing.
That is correct. Municipalities often look at what the neighboring municipalities doing, and our understanding in Milton in particular comes to mind that they're looking at increasing the rates as well.
So in terms of our cost structure and our council's decision to try to get to a particular cost recovery ratio, other municipalities are also looking to recover their costs and are looking at our structure and saying, yeah, we want to try and go to that as well.
Yes.
So we might be, I'll say, ahead of the curve, and we've gone through a phased-in increase to our fees, and in the upcoming years, we're looking at more of an inflationary increase. They may be looking at a inflation plus something as a catch-up, is what you're saying.
That is correct. And we can certainly look to the other municipalities and see where they are and their progress in that area and report back on that as well.
Thank you. Mayor Burton?
Thank you. In line with the information that we heard from the delegation, can the Budget Committee possibly receive some analysis of this issue of what impact our own operations have on the cost recovery calculation. In other words, are we, I perceived the information to be saying that our own operations were contributing to a higher cost level that was driving our cost recovery fee. And I'd like to have an analysis that shows to what extent that might be, and what, if any, countermeasures could be entertained or considered.
We'd be happy to do that analysis.
Thanks.
So I perceive a desire to see the relative cost recovery ratios of different kinds of programs. I think that's the nature of the question.
Yes.
No, as I understood the information, when we set our cost recovery, we're looking at the total cost of operations. And the suggestion I thought I heard was that in our own operations, where, for example, we charge $4 for a thing and very few people come, we are bearing much greater costs there than we are recovering. And in theory, that deficit, let's call it, is going into the global total costs that are then, and that's then driving the cost recovery fee to the group. That's the way I understood the suggestion. Is that in fact the way we do it?
Well, we do look at it overall. Yes, there's absolutely, that is true. Actually, almost every time you put people in the water, you're putting yourself in a better position, because your only cost that you have to recover is the cost of the lifeguards or the instructor. The significant cost in operating a pool is just having water in the pool and heating it. And so the cost to run an hour of empty pool is empty of people, not empty of water, is quite high. And as soon as you start putting people into that pool, you're actually moving in the right direction. So, but that level of detail, I don't think we've done that analysis, and we'll see what we can bring forward.
So you were here, you heard the submissions from the delegation. Mm-hmm. Did you understand the delegation to be suggesting that the way we operate our programs is contributing to that we're not doing a good job of being efficient on our side, and this is contributing to our higher rates than surrounding municipalities? Did you hear that suggestion the way I did?
Yes, I did.
What information could you provide the Budget Committee, not necessarily today, but in this cycle? What information could you provide to give us some clarity on this and to show us some numbers?
We can certainly look at the different types of activities we have in the pool, such as lessons, and demonstrate what our revenue is against our costs for providing those lessons, and the different types of activities in the pools. And I think that would give you a good indication of what the level of subsidy is.
The bottom line of the suggestion I heard was that implicitly we're subsidizing our underattended town programs, and thus subsidizing the wrong thing. It was suggested that the strokers and the marlins ought to be subsidized rather than town programs that aren't working. And I would welcome some clarity on how to resolve that.
We'll certainly put something together for you. I just wanted to make a point, though, that when it comes to pool operations, essentially every program is subsidized because of the cost of operating pool.
I think I understand that. I'm not asking for a particular outcome. I'm only asking for information.
Sure. We're happy to provide it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that came out was a concept that we're making a profit on this particular set of users, and I don't think that's the case. So,
I'd like to clear that up.
Yeah, so
If that's the case, I'd like to show it.
Yeah, so I think that's the part of the question that's going to our staff. Councillor Hutchins and then Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you. Also, one of the submissions was about the Special Olympics and the strokers. Apparently, we're not doing enough to help them. Is it possible to find out what the surrounding municipalities are doing differently to us?
Be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I say this knowing full well the pitfalls around it, but have we ever looked at doing, at changing the way we charge based on ability to pay rather than based on age and on seniors? I mean, I was reading something lately in the 1970s, about 40% of people over 65 were living in poverty. Now it's about 7%. The Conference Board of Canada says this generation of boomers are the wealthiest in history. And I know some poor seniors, and I know some rich seniors, and I know a lot of poor young adults, and I know some better off adults. So, I mean, I think, and this is probably across the board in terms of transit and a bunch of things, but do we look at ability to pay in this instance for pools? As well as, or are there programs we have based on ability to pay that may help seniors who can't afford the rates rather than just a blanket, everybody should pay less? And the same would go for youth. Have we looked at that as an option, or are we just sort of stick with demographics?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have a Rec Connect program. It is for people who can't afford our services, and it is based on ability to pay. And then we use the same criteria as the region does and other municipalities. So any individual who can't afford our services can access our Rec Connect program. That's for town programs.
So would that be something that the master's program could take advantage of then, or individuals within the master's program who couldn't seem to? Sorry, Nia.
Yeah. The Rec Connect program is for town-operated programs. It's not for rentals of facilities. So could individual members of the Masters access Rec Connect for their club? No, they wouldn't be able to do that because it is for town programs.
Okay.
If I could interject,
I'm sorry. Sorry, I want to let the councillor finish with his discussion, please.
Sorry, thanks. Okay, yeah. So, and I guess just to be clear, so it's because the master's program rents a pool, just as though maybe a senior soccer team would rent a soccer field. It's the same. What happens is that's not part of town programming, so they wouldn't qualify for that program. Then that's what I'm to understand.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other members of the committee or council members here that want to have questions of our staff? Very good. Thank you very much. Was there some additional?
I was just going to say, I wouldn't get hung up on.
Would you mind coming up to the mic? I don't mind you providing a bit of extra information to the conversation.
I wouldn't get hung up necessarily on seniors. I didn't come, or the masters didn't come and say, we don't want to pay $185. We don't like paying $185. Make no mistake. It's really, as Mayor Burton said, and I'm not singling you out, it's really looking at your own programs to see if there's some cost savings that you can make within your programs. I'm 60, Arn's over there 73, so you can see, Councillor Elgar, that, it does sort of help a bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there, now Mayor Burton is drafting something. This is the end of our formal set of delegations that were pre-registered. Are there any other members of the community here today that would like to provide information? Come on down then, please. And if you wouldn't mind giving us your name, and if you're affiliated with a particular group, that would be helpful. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. My name is Mary Marshall. I have been a resident of Ward 4 in Oakville for 20 years. Our annual property tax is approximately $6,000 per annum. We love our town and are involved in community affairs, enjoy its parks and open spaces and recreation. Oakville Transit is an A1 transit system, offering more service more often to more places. 26 routes, service hours from 6 till 12:30 a.m., plus late night service, real-time busing tracking tools, providing transportation services for customers with special needs, both the conventional buses and paratransit service, caravan, shelters, clean and safe operating vehicles, and trained drivers. According to the annual accessibility plan for 2016 for Oakville Transit, for many residents, Oakville Transit is the only means of travel to and from work, school, medical appointments, to run errands, attend cultural and recreational events, and to participate in social activities. All residents will directly benefit as the accessibility of transit services is improved. In addition, improved accessibility will lead to increased use of Oakville Transit, contributing to continued ridership growth. At this point, I just would really like to see an honest showing of hands of how many folks in attendance arrived here by Oakville Transit. Just even a visual, just looking at the parking lot on my arrival. You know, I'm looking around for a parking spot. Sorry, I talk with my hands. I would refute that, that Oakville Transit is an A1 transit system. However, what I would state is that Oakville Transit gets a failing grade for ridership. Anecdotes. This all started to percolate. I'm part of a mom brigade of mom bus drivers. We carpool. So this is where I'm just a resident mom. And this started to percolate because during this past summer, when I was driving my kids around the town over to various summer day camps, we started noticing on different days, times, locations, the same observation, that the Oakville Transit buses were empty, meaning that there were 0 to maybe 3, never over 6 passengers. I can give you a couple of recent examples. 5:15 on a Monday, I'm driving my daughter from the Queen Elizabeth pool along Bridge Road, and at Seaton, it's a 4-way stop. My daughter notices the bus. Oh, okay, so it starts going into the kneeling feature, so I'm explaining that to her. Why is it doing that? Which allows the bus to be lowered. And we were traveling east, the bus was traveling west. The rider disembarked, it was a senior. It's Mondays, they ride for free. In passing, we noticed that on the bus there was just one other rider. At 8 p.m. on a last Friday evening, I was driving north on 3rd line from North Service Road all the way up to Highway 5, and I was going at the same pace as the bus because it wasn't stopping to drop off anyone or to pick up anyone. So there we were. No passengers. 7:45 p.m. on a Monday, I was coming off the QEW ramp at the 3rd line, and heading north was a bus. And so I had a group of 4 12-year-old boys in the van with me. And we observed that the bus going north at 7:45 p.m. was empty. And they even got the absurdity of this, that, hey, we've got 4 passengers in our van, Mom, and the bus has 0. It's nice to say that we offer this full service. However, what is the percentage of the Oakville population that uses Oakville Transit? Who is using Oakville Transit? I don't know. So I'm going to put some ideas out there. I don't know, students, nannies, some folks to and from the Oakville and Bronte GO stations. Community housing, there's a community housing complex at 2299 Breeze Lane. Let me tell you, they're not using it. Because on my daily runs on Heritage Way, there is a stop 2401, okay? That complex comes with garage. Every unit has, I guess, its own garage and surface parking. Almost 100% of them have cars and drive, because on my daily runs, I have rarely ever seen any one of them out there at the bus stop, which is right at the doorstep of this property. So, I don't know, people from that project complex, they're not using Oakville Transit. Oakville Transit expects that demands for this service will continue to grow, and that in conjunction with this growth, there will be increasing demands for improved accessibility. On what basis? So, I guess I sort of asked this question. Do the cheerleaders use Oakville Transit? That being the budget committee members, Oakville Transit employees, do they use it? Our tax dollars are upholding Oakville Transit's infrastructure, the bus fleets, the fuel, the drivers, the maintenance, executives, and admin. And now there's a request for even more in your 2017 budget proposals. That Oakville Transit, the third largest allotment of property taxes is Oakville Transit with $107.6 million. That's 10% of the total. And I'm hearing other folks here saying they need money. We're flushing money and nobody's using it. And this is very unscientific. Because I said to my kids about just being responsible, okay, this is what we've noticed. So, but before we can go and start really speaking, we've got to have documentation. So I made a spreadsheet, and there are my kids in the back, because we carpool, writing. Last night, when I went to pick my daughter up, 823 Rebecca and Kerr Street. It was going east on Rebecca and south on to Kerr. It was bus number 1306, and it had one person. And I could just, in our daily kind of comings and goings, just show you this. Not scientific, but really, if we're figuring this out, I don't know how it's being missed on other levels. And this request is to replace and refurbish buses, the caravan fleet, at $57.1 million is the estimated. Purchase additional fleet for what? You want to expand the service? What is currently there isn't even being used. And to forecast $6.3 million for a new terminal in the Palermo area. And you want $4.3 million for expansion buses. Folks, you're not even filling up the ones you've got. Yet this town claims to be planning for future operating budget expenditures to manage debt repayment levels and determine future reserve fund requirements, all of which need to be managed effectively and efficiently in order to ensure the town's long-term financial position is sustainable. How is this sensible? Am I the emperor that's saying, am I the person that's saying, calling out and saying, the emperor is not wearing any clothes?
You've gone through 10 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
Do you have a wrap-up that you'd like to provide us?
Yes. Barely anyone is riding the Oakville Transit buses. Stop wasting our tax dollars to this purpose. Get real, rein it in, scale it down. I'm not saying get rid of it, public transit. What I'm saying is continue with certain routes that have a higher demand and frequency, need for frequency. Otherwise, use smaller shuttle van buses and sell off some of the conventional buses to Toronto because they seem to need it.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate your information. Oh, Councillor Elgar, you have questions of staff? Thank you very much. We appreciate your time today.
Not of her presentation. Appreciate her coming. She does live in the ward, and I think we all see what she is experiencing and seeing also. But I wonder if someone from transit could explain the budget, the gross, the net, what we are subsidizing, and how we are comparing to other communities with our transit program.
Mr. Cole?
Just this morning on the radio, I heard that Toronto is going through this process as well. And for transit, they're looking to perhaps increase their property taxes for transit use, but that they're also having to debate whether they're going to raise their fares to $3. And here it's like $3.50. And Toronto has a far more extensive transit system.
Thank you very much for the comments. We do have in our rates and fees expectations for increasing fares and past costs, and I'm going to go to our staff to answer the councillor's question.
Shall I be seated?
Yes, at this time. I don't think there are any questions for you. Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I could ask Councillor Elgar to repeat the question.
Yeah, the question is like what our budget is for transit, and what the taxpayers are paying, and also mention our fare rate and any increases that we're looking at for 2017, and also about the buses. That I know you have made a new plan. You were buying big buses because it was stated the big buses were required for the peak periods, but now I believe earlier this year I heard you saying you're looking at smaller buses also going forward, which I think will make people feel better too than seeing a big empty bus. So anyway,
well, through you, Mr. Chair, there are a number of things maybe that I could speak to here. One, we'll start with cost recovery. So cost recovery, or the amount, let's go to the amount paid by the tax levy to subsidize transit, is a little over 70%. That compares reasonably with transit systems of our size. Oakville Transit, as you know, just completed a review of service and implemented a number of major changes in September of this year. Those changes included the cancellation of 6 routes. And the 6 routes that were canceled were all those routes that had less than 10 rides per hour. In other words, they were very inefficient routes. So we've just implemented a number of changes which have resulted in elimination of underused routes. We've taken those resources and allocated them to routes where there is demonstrated higher demand. As I mentioned in the presentation, it's frequency or convenience that drives ridership. So we've already seen 3 consecutive months of ridership increase as a result of those changes. With respect to the size of the buses, you're correct. We've just purchased a number of 30-foot buses, smaller capacity buses. We have additional ones on order. By the time we finish 2017, we should have about 14 of those. About 14% of our fleet would be 30-foot buses. With respect to the observation of empty buses, absolutely. You can go out anywhere in the town at any time of day and you'll observe empty buses or near empty buses. You can also go out at any time of day in any municipality anywhere in Ontario, and I'll include Toronto, major growth areas like Brampton, York Region, Mississauga. You'll recall that I did a presentation to council where I actually displayed pictures of empty buses. There's not a municipality anywhere that operates transit that does not have buses operating empty at some times. Empty buses are a result of things like direction of travel relative to the flow. If you're going north and everybody else is going south to the GO station, the bus is likely going to be empty. Proximity to major trip generators, proximity to the end of the line. There are a number of factors that enter into whether a bus has people on it or not. So to your point, smaller buses, a lot of it is perception. When you see a 40-foot bus with seating capacity of 36 and total capacity of 65, 70 people, and there's 2 people on it, it creates a negative impression. Smaller buses will go a long way to addressing that.
Thank you for that information. Now, the other issue, and it's not yours, but the gurus of planning and transportation they've been saying for, well, quite a few years, we're going to be at 20% modal split and what modal split would be using the buses? Because it's not moving, and the needle isn't moving very much, and all we're doing is getting a lot more congestion on the roads every morning.
Yeah. Well, what drives, first of all, modal split is determined in large part by, modal split is the number of people using transit. The number of people using transit doesn't just magically go up. It goes up because more people are attracted to it as an alternative to their car. So infrastructure has to be put in place in order to facilitate growth in the system. Then investment has to be made in increased frequency of service to make service more convenient. You have to establish better connectivity, both within your own system and with the GO system and with the neighboring municipalities. All of these things are what drive ridership. So a 20% modal split is a very aggressive target and is going to require significant investment. But the idea is to get more people off the road and onto transit. That's how you reduce congestion. It's a long-term proposition that requires investment.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. I just don't see the needle hasn't moved very much at the region in the last 15 years, even though we're pushing for a large number. One question I do have, and maybe you don't have the answer today, but how much we spend cleaning the shelters at the bus stops, like where there's graffiti spraying on everything. Like, I think we're doing an excellent job of cleaning it up, but I really think people should know just how much it's costing the municipality. And I'm just talking the bus shelters, never mind anything else in the town. Do you have any idea what we spend annually on that program?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can't quantify that for you. We incorporate bus shelter maintenance costs into the bus shelter advertising contract. So when we retain the services of the firm to do the shelter advertising, included in that is that they must maintain the shelters for us. They do an excellent job of it. It does reduce the amount of revenue that we receive from our shelter advertising, but I can't break that piece out for you.
So we do not have to pay for the graffiti removal and the tagging that's everywhere, but they do clean it up fast?
Correct. If there's graffiti reported, it's done within 24 hours.
Well, you're doing a good job of that. They're doing a good job of that, I must say, and I'm proud of that, because left unchecked, it just gets worse and worse. So I thank you, and thanks for the information.
Any other questions of our staff on this matter? Mayor Burton?
Mr. Cole, can you help me remember what year it was that council decided to shift from a radial system that took all our bus routes in and out of the 2 GO stations and began to create a grid system in the name of increasing ridership? Was that 2008 or 9, or when was that?
Through Mr. Chair, that was September 2009.
2009. And did we achieve an increase in ridership the next year as a result of our beginning this exercise?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, we did. Coincidentally, in the September, when we launched that new service, ridership actually declined by about, if I recall, it was about 4%. October, it went up by about 1.5%, and then for 32 straight months, we saw ridership increase. We went from approximately 2.5 million rides annually to July of 2014, when we topped out at just over 3 million rides.
And when did Metrolinx open the parking structure at the Oakville GO station?
That was around mid-2014, around the time our service ridership peaked.
And is it a belief in the transit business that increasing parking at GO stations reduces the incentive for people to take the bus to the GO station?
That's our view, that it...
Besides coincidence, do you have any evidence to back that view up?
Right. they implemented free indoor parking at the GO station, provided thousands of additional spaces, and our ridership started to decline.
All right. To what do you attribute the recent increase in ridership then?
I would attribute it to two things. Primarily the service changes that we implemented in September of this year, along with the advertising campaign that accompanied it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the information. I wonder, I recently had a discussion with a neighboring mayor about their transit experience. And I wonder, do you have comparable figures that we just went through for Oakville for either of our for any of our neighbors, Milton, Mississauga, or Burlington?
Off the top of my head, I can't provide them, but I have performance numbers for every transit system in the country.
I think the Budget Committee would be interested to see the comparable figures for those three neighbors for the time period that we just covered from 2009 forward. Would that be possible for us to get?
I can provide those, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Councillor Listrina?
Mr. Cole, could you, what is the percentage currently in Oakville of riders, do we know? Of people in Oakville versus how many use the transit system?
We don't have that number. We have rides per capita is the closest thing that we come to, and I think our rides per capita right now is a little over 15.
Do you know of any municipality that has, or which municipality has the highest riders per capita?
Not off the top of my head. I would hazard a guess in the GTA, it's probably Brampton.
Brampton.
Brampton's implemented a number of major service improvements, including bus rapid transit routes. They've had ridership growth approaching 10%.
So 10%. Thank you.
Mayor Burton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Cole, are you aware of conversations in the region of Halton at several levels of, with a view towards considering uploading bus transit to a regional level and creating a regional system such as other regions have done?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm aware of discussions regarding regionalization of transit in Halton, yes.
What's your view of the pros and cons of regionalizing transit? Would it increase the ridership and make it more convenient for people?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that some form of regionalized transit or transit funded in part by the region would allow for improved cross-boundary travel and as a result likely result in an increase in ridership. I think that transit's an expensive proposition and it's difficult for a single municipality to provide the level of service that's required to attract the number of customers needed.
Are you participating in or are you aware of discussions at Metrolinx about fare integration across the GTHA?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm aware of those discussions. I've been part of those.
What would be your forecast as to the impact on the lower tier municipalities such as Oakville if Metrolinx imposes an integrated fare structure across the GTHA? Would we, I know that the TTC has objected violently. I was at a meeting of the TTC board where they objected violently to the idea because they were going to lose $40 million a year. Have we done an analysis of what that would do to us?
Through Mr. Chair, we believe that the fare integration that is being proposed by Metrolinx would likely impact on our revenue. We already have cross-boundary travel at no cost. We already have the ability within our area between Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, Mississauga, and Brampton to travel cross-boundary unlimited within a 2-hour period without having to pay another fare. So we already have that. The issue with fare integration is really the Toronto border and any municipality that has to cross it.
Well, it was clear to me that the TTC expected the 905 systems to give them $40 million for this privilege.
That's our fear, that in order to achieve cross-boundary travel with Toronto, they're going to have to spread those costs over the full 905. That could cause, for example, our fares to have to change from what we currently have to something like a tap-on, tap-off, so fare by distance. It could result in something like pay for transfers, or elimination of transfers and pay for every ride, no matter how many times you have to transfer. All of these things are being considered by Metrolinx as potential solutions to fare integration, and those are the things that could end up costing us significantly.
Thank you very much for the information about what we're facing in the future.
Councillor Hutchins.
Yes, hello, Mr. Cole, thank you. In the cost savings, what are the roughly cost savings to Oakville for having a 40-foot bus or a 35 or 30-foot bus or a caravan, you know, if it has to go along the same routes?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The cost savings between a 30-foot bus and a 40-foot bus traditionally have been negligible. We look at life cycle costs, so we have to look at how long the bus is going to last. So a 40-foot bus has a life cycle cost of 12 years. Traditionally, 30-foot buses have been 7 or 8 years. But the capital cost, the initial capital cost to purchase the buses was within about $20,000 to $30,000. In other words, you were paying the same for a 30-foot bus as you were for a 40-foot bus, but the 40-foot bus would last for 4 or 5 years longer. You then have to look at the operating costs of the buses. So a 30-foot bus has marginally better fuel efficiency than a 40-foot bus, but the 30-foot buses cost more to maintain. So as we did our life cycle costs, 30-foot buses traditionally cost more over the period to own and to operate. You'll recall the emergence of a 30-foot bus that had a significantly lower capital cost. A couple of years ago, I came to council and advised of this, and this provided us with the opportunity to move to a smaller capacity bus, a less intrusive bus, at a lower cost. It just made no sense, historically it made no sense to go and buy smaller buses if it costs more to operate them. We also have to have buses that can handle peak loads. So if I have a 40-foot bus and I put it out, and during the peak rush hour period, that bus capacity is needed, there's no point in putting a 30-foot bus out and leaving people standing on the street. Arguably, I mean, you could have a smaller capacity bus out on the middle of the route, but now I'm running 2 buses. Or I have to have in off-peak times a smaller capacity bus, so I'm running a double fleet because we have fewer people in off-peak. So we would buy the same bus and use it for all periods because it would handle peak loads. We also have to purchase buses with a view to what ridership is going to be at the end of the life of the bus. So if I buy a bus right now, and if we project ridership is going to grow even at a rate of 3 or 4% a year, by the time we get to the 8th year of the life of a bus, that bus may not have the capacity we need. So there's a number of factors that go into the purchasing of the buses. But at the moment, we have a 30-foot bus that we are buying that we believe is going to get us 12 years life. It costs more, or sorry, it costs less to purchase and it costs less to maintain.
So thank you. So basically, it's very hard to prioritize and customize vehicles of different sizes for different times of the day, because you need the capacity when you need the capacity, and you can't have every type of vehicle sitting in the shed waiting for a particular date.
Correct. I would be spending twice as much on buses as I am now, running a shadow fleet.
Thank you.
Councillor Listrina.
Mr. Cole, regarding Ms. Marshall's frustration, and I sense it's probably a lot of people's frustration. So currently, each household is subsidizing 70% of the transit. Is that correct?
Approximately, yes.
So that's approximately what? How much would you say in dollars per household?
21, 22 million. That's not per household. I'm sorry, I don't have the number per household. Nancy would have to get that at some point.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's $22 million. What we don't have in front of us right now is the number of households. We'd have to come back with that information for you.
I think the number would work out to something in the order of $300, $400 per household, depending on how you figure number of households and so forth. Approximately. That's why I say. So I don't have the number in front of me to do the calculation, but it's in that order. How about that? Is that good enough?
Yes, so my comment, just with respect to the taxpayer, if we take a look at, with respect to the environmental sort of cost with respect to, are we taking people off the road with their cars when they get into a bus? Does that mean they are getting out of their car, or they just don't purchase the car in order to use public transit? Could you make a comment on that?
Well, those are the softer social benefits of transit. I can't tell you how many people elect to keep their car at home and how many people elect to not purchase. But essentially, if you're providing 3 million rides a year, that's essentially the equivalent of 3 million trips off the road by automobile. Granted, some of those are shared ride trips, but it's still a lot of trips.
So do we do surveys of our ridership to know information like this, just so we can have? I mean, I realize that there is a cost to the taxpayer, but if we're looking at overall about reducing our carbon footprint and other things that people worry about, I think that would be important information.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did, when we did our transit service review in 2014, early 15, we did significant surveys. We also looked at surveys that were done, not only the town survey, but Metrolink survey, which took in the entire region. In the Metrolink survey, 46% of the respondents said that if service was more frequent, if service was more convenient, that they would get out of their car. That was 46% of the car users said that they would travel by transit if it was more frequent, more convenient.
Councillor Hutchins again.
Yes, thank you. I'm not expecting any answer at the moment, but is Councillor Skinner's question, is there a way of doing it cost per 100,000 on a household, the transit proportion? Is that something that could be provided to? That might give people a better idea of the costs of their bearing.
Yes, we could do that. It will be an estimate because the taxes vary from house to house depending on the value of the house. But we can give you an estimated value as a sort of a heuristic.
I believe that's already in our budget materials. Yeah. So I don't have the page number in front of me, but it is within the materials that we've already provided publicly. And I'll try and look it up while I'll race our staff to it. How about that?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, on page 11 of the executive summary, it shows that per $100 of taxes, $12 goes to transit.
So a household could do the math on their own if they wished. So when I said the number was $300 or $400 per house, that's assuming a $4,000 tax bill. Do the math. So now you have to do the portion that's the Oakville taxes, not the overall bill. Okay. Any other questions? I just have one question. There was a discussion about the Oakville GO station parking. What was the cost of that new structure? Was it in the order of $41 million?
Yeah, I understood it was closer to 50.
Okay. So it's not free, and the province through Metrolinx made that very substantial investment. So
they also don't charge.
And they don't charge.
Right.
And so presumably there's a annual depreciation on that garage that'll eventually have to be repaired, fixed, replaced, and there's an ongoing operating cost, even though it's just a parking garage, there's an operating cost to that as well, right?
I mean, that type of thing is similar to, for example, the legislation that requires us to operate specialized transit service, but no funding is provided for it. That is more than $2 million on the transit budget. In Halton, to your point, Mayor Burton, on regionalization, Halton Region is the only region that doesn't operate specialized transit. That falls to us to do it.
Thank you very much.
You want to make clear that those parking structure costs that you're running through?
I think I was fairly clear. The question was, do I want to make it clear that the $50 million of parking costs at the GO station are not ours? That's right. That's why I said. And the depreciation. That whole thing is not us. I only meant to say there's a cost to parking, whoever pays, and in this case it's not the town of Oakville who's paying for that structure, but there is a public cost to providing that service as well. Mayor Burton.
And that's a very interesting point because there's really a double cost. It first to build it and operate it and everything, but then there's the impact it has on our ridership, which produces another set of costs, which is unfortunate.
Well, and then the third impact, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, the third impact is the traffic congestion created in the area, which then has a further negative effect on our ridership because it affects our on-time performance, which then impacts ridership again. So and in fact, we've seen 3 consecutive months of ridership increase in spite of these things.
Okay. For those who can't hear, the question is, what are the demographic of our ridership? Staff have provided demographic information in previous reports to council in our transit strategies and so forth around how many rides are we taking, where are they coming from, that sort of thing. Could you provide a synopsis or a 30-second version of our ridership demographic?
Well, I can start by, through Mr. Chair, I can start by saying that a little less than 30% of our ridership is people who are using our bus to connect with the GO train. The balance of that ridership are people who are using our services either to get around town, and a lot of that was enabled through the implementation of the grid system, and also to transfer between Mississauga and Burlington. To look at the demographic, we can break it down from an adult, student, and senior. But beyond that, I can't tell you from a sort of economic perspective. I would say that if you were to look at a cross section of the people who live in Oakville, that's our ridership.
Mr. Cole, we also do surveys of our citizens every couple of years, and through that we have often asked questions around the question of do you use transit, how do you use transit, and so there is actually a set of information available to us that is not derived directly from who's stepping on a bus, but it's from polling of our citizens and our residents around how often do you use transit and that kind of thing as well. So I would say that council has received that kind of information in the past. So it's not that we've never asked for it, it's not that we've never seen it, and I certainly recall seeing various versions of that survey information. Is that correct, that we've got previously have had that information provided to us?
Through your chair, yes, we've had that information. That was also one of the surveys we relied upon when we were doing our service review. That one also indicated that the majority of residents would use transit if it was more convenient and more frequent.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other members of the audience here today who wish to provide information to the committee? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, so that's the delegations for today. Members of committee, I recall there being at least 2 requests for information coming out of today. One is some pricing information and subsidy information regarding our swim facilities. That is one, and Mayor Burton, I think you may have drafted something to that effect. And further to that, I'm not sure if there was some request for some information about the transit system as well. Would a member of the committee like to provide that in a drafted format? And Mayor Burton, go ahead.
So my request for transit-related information I thought was very clear and readily agreed to by the director, and I don't think we feel a need for a motion on that. As regards to swim, I had an opportunity to consult with Ms. Scott about this matter, and she wanted, and I've written this in, I've written this with her help, and I believe this gets to what she was asking for. She also told me, as she told the committee, that her group is not a seniors group and doesn't wish to be seen as one. And she also reminded me, as she told the committee, that she was not objecting to, she wasn't asking to not pay the $185. She was asking questions about the efficiency and the productivity of the rest of our program as regards its impact on our ability to do other things that she mentioned, such as supporting the Strokers and the Marlins. The Marlins is a swim group for autistic children, and the Strokers are, I think you understand, a swim rehabilitation group for people who have suffered strokes. So therefore, the Budget Committee requests an analysis of the following questions. Do the Oakville-operated length swims and adult swim programs cover their costs, and if not, from what source are these costs recovered? Second, what measures could be adopted to reduce any deficit in these programs? Third, what opportunities do we have to control variable costs in our swim programs? And I would move that request.
Is there, I'm not sure if I understood, was there a request to provide some information about the subsidy level of different kinds of programs inherent in that, or not?
No, she wasn't, she made it clear she wasn't interested in that. She's targeted on efficiency and productivity and our ability to, how we run our part of the swim.
Very good. Are there other members of the committee who wish to have that additional information? Or are you satisfied?
Why not? Throw it in.
Councillor Elgar would like to incorporate that. Councillor Hutchins, is that also your intent? And Councillor Robinson? Yes. Okay.
Just dictate it and I'll write it down.
That staff provide information regarding the level of subsidy for various pool programs.
Information on level of subsidy for our swim programs.
Yes, I said various swim programs to incorporate both those that are run by the town as well as those that are priced out or fees to other user groups, I'll say.
For swim programs.
That's why I said swim programs, yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
I move it.
Any other requests for information? Very good. Then I'll take a motion to request that information. Those in favor of requesting that information, that passes. Thank you. So maybe we could get that piece of paper, and we'll make sure that it gets passed to the right individuals.
I'm available to decode any handwriting problems.
Very good. Sure, that won't be required.
It
All
always
right.
is.
So, members of the committee, thank you very much for your intense set of questions today. We're going to recess until the 7 p.m. meeting on Thursday evening, when we'll receive additional delegations. We do have one delegation currently registered, and I expect there may be more. I will report that I have run 2 open houses since last week, and various types of questions that came out of that. I would say that apart from the Oak Swim Group, the other individuals who showed up at those meetings were people who were passing through, as opposed to people who came intently for the purpose of asking questions about the budget. The feedback that I received varied from questions about the cost structure that we have to hope that we would provide additional funding for a wide variety of programs and services, everything from libraries to active transportation programs and transportation issues, as well as hope and desire that we maintain our library services and other services as well. So I would say that that was the kind of feedback we're receiving, general enjoyment of the services that we provide, and appreciation for the types and quality of services that we have in Oakville. So I'm going to recess us. We'll see you again on Thursday. In the meantime, if you have additional questions, please make sure that we're aware of them.